So, here's the deal. The first metro from Laval is at 5:53. My bus leaves at 6:30. And if I can catch the metro, it's $6 to get downtown. If I have to take a cab, it can cost like $40 to get downtown. So I always rush, right? But I usually have just enough time. Look at that. Instantly I look better in the dark. So I'm on my metro to come here, obviously, to the bus. And the metro stops at Barrie-O'Combe. And I'm sitting there for a minute, I'm like, okay, it's gonna go. And then all of a sudden they have this, over the intercom, there's an issue on the orange line, and it stopped for a few minutes, and I was like, now, listen, Barrie is not far from Bonaventure, if you're a 20-year-old who can run that far, but I'm not. And so, I'm running out of the station, and I had to wave down a cab and catch a cab over here, but still, that cab and my fare was $13, so still cheaper than $40 one way. And Christopher's gonna come and get me. Don't worry, I'm gonna record when I get into Toronto and all those other good things. And maybe even record the class. I know you've all been asking me to do that, so maybe I'll set everything up. The battery's charged, so we shall see. Talk to you soon, folks. Woke up from a nap. I'm like, I was talking to my friend Sean, and I was like, oh, I have a rock star in my bag, but I was like, I don't want to drink it because I don't want to waste it, because what if I pass out? And literally like less than 5 minutes later I passed out. Folks, I am not just a pretty face. Yeah. So I don't know where we are because I was sleeping for an hour. Shoreline's Casino. So yeah, that's alright. I don't know why I didn't bring my microphone. That would have made it easier. I hope you can all hear me. I don't want to talk too loud because obviously there's people sleeping on the bus and that would be rude. And I'm not a rude person. Unless I know you. Oh. So yeah, we should be arriving in 3 hours. It's 9:30 now, and we're supposed to arrive in Toronto at 12:25. Class starts at 1. Class will probably go from 1 until 3, depending on how many questions the students have for me, etc., etc. And then, yeah. Then I see Marianne. She's going to pick me up. We're going to go for lunch. I'm craving Ginger's crispy chicken rolls because I've never had ginger. Well, they don't have ginger in Montreal. They might have something similar, but they don't have ginger in Montreal. So yeah. Oh, it's GANANOQUE Gananoque. I probably pronounced that wrong. That's apparently where we are. So stay tuned for my next update for travel. Okay, it's 11:05. As you can see, I put a little makeup on. I ain't winning any makeup challenges on the bus anytime soon, but at least I feel fresh enough to never have, and that's one of the reasons I brought my camcorder with me. So yeah, I'm awake. I feel fresh-ish. I mean, as fresh as you can be on a 6-hour bus ride. Hopefully the sound is okay. I know the sound on the bus kind of sucks. I should have brought my external microphone, but I didn't because I'm an idiot. That's why. So yeah, stay tuned. Do some more filming, and yeah, I'm so tired, and this did not help. I always feel like sometimes when you drink those things, it actually makes you even more tired than it should. So yeah, should be in Toronto in about 2 hours, and then back home in about 8. Okay, I made it. I'm in Toronto. I'm early, technically on time, so it's kind of great. I'm fucking exhausted, but the class doesn't start until 1 o'clock, so I have 30 minutes, and it's only 5 minutes away, so I can take my time. I'm genuinely so fucking tired right now. But like I always say, it's always worth it. And I know I've said that I'm tired in every single part of this, but it's because I am. Okay. I'm like wondering if I want to stop and get something to munch on, but probably not. Yeah, I think I'll just get there and come and figure things out from there. I think I have a Danish in my bag, so yeah. I think I have a salted caramel chocolate Danish in my bag. And Christopher's gonna pick me up later tonight, which is awesome because I definitely don't want to have to take a taxi home. So everything works out. Oh my god. So being from Toronto, like a bunch of the landmarks are like gone. And I think about 2 years ago, this place called the world's largest bookstore closed down. And I'm looking right now and I can see that it's like, it's gonna be luxury condos. Cause that's what fucking Toronto needs. More goddamn condos. Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna put you away until I get into class. And hopefully we'll start filming in there as well. Ta-doo! Everybody's hair in the second row looks amazing on camera. So, also, I'm super sorry, I'm not sick, but I have really bad asthma, and I just finished a chest infection that finished like a couple weeks ago, so I'm still in that like phlegm at the top of my throat that won't fucking go anywhere. Were they warned about my swearing yet? I tend to swear a lot. The word fuck is like my exclamation mark. It'll be a fun game you can play if you drink or you don't drink. When you watch this back on YouTube, you can be like, every time she swears, we'll take a shot. Be drunk in like 10 minutes, I promise. And you're students, right? So, give me a few seconds to get my vibe in. I usually start from the fact that we use terminology like male to female. It's completely antiquated terminology. Dear God, thank you. I look so much better in the dark. Listen, I was filming on the bus on the way here and the lights went on. I was like, poof, instantly I look better. So male to female sort of mandates that I was a man first and I became a woman. Well, the reality is no. If I'm trans, I was born with a penis and I'm a woman because some women have vaginas and some don't. It's really that simple. I started transitioning when I was 13. Also, be prepared. There are sometimes I forget some little tidbits, and Vashti always seems to be able to remember. So I love this. I started transitioning when I was 13 years old. I was a prostitute on a street called Jackson Street in Hamilton, Ontario. It's where little gay boys sucked it for money. And also, I have no filter, so if you're easily offended, honey, you are in the wrong fucking class today. So I was doing that, and it was one of those I was at home, and my mom and my grandmother were talking. Not my real grandmother, the woman that my mother was going to marry her son, so she would have been, that whole respect thing. So my grandmother. Anyway, she did now. So my mom and her were talking, and I heard them. Listen, terminology I use is what my mother said. I'm only quoting. These are not words that I generally use on my day-to-day basis. But she was like, "Yeah, those fags, they hang out down on Jackson Street," and I was like, "Where?" Because in our home, my mom had gay friends, and I didn't quite sort of connect with them, but I definitely knew something was different about me. Not wrong, not abnormal, but just different. There was something about me that I knew I was really different. And so I was like, okay, so one night, while I'm leaving my grandmother's place to go home, I decided that I'm going to go down this street, Jackson Street. So behind City Hall, there's this place called Whitehurn. And I literally, 13-year-old little boy, climbed up in the tree, dropped my knapsack off in the tree, jumped down from the tree, and walked down Jackson Street. And my first night there, someone was like, "What's your name?" And I said, "Sam." My mom had a boyfriend named Sam when I was a kid, and he was such a nice guy that I was like, not to mention he was kind of cute. Apparently she married him. My sister just told me this like 2 years ago. But the more shocking thing is that my mother wore a dress. Not that she was married, just saying. My mom was very jeans and a t-shirt. And I think that's where I became so comfortable in jeans and a t-shirt as an adult woman, because I saw my mom wearing it and I was like, that's what comfort sort of looks like, and I'm okay with that. So I went down Jackson Street and I started talking to the gay guys who were there because they hung out at this Tim Hortons. And I'm 40 now, well technically 41 in 4 months, 3 months, it's February, 3 months. The Red Bull's kicking in. So I turned 41 in a couple months, and 27 years ago, we didn't have the safe spaces in school, and we didn't have the positive spaces from teachers and all those other things. These were things that I was only beginning my fight for. And so when I found out that all these gay people hung out on Jackson Street and they hung out at this Tim Hortons, well, I would go hang out at this Tim Hortons at night and then get up for school in the morning, go to school, and wash and repeat every day of the week. And then, one day some cute guy propositioned me, and I could make $25 a bill and suck my dick, and I was like, you're on, let's go. So then I started doing that. We grew up, I always tell people, we grew up soup kitchen poor. We had nothing. And somehow my mom managed to make everything work all the time. She was literally superwoman. She managed to get shit together all the time. And in some odd sort of fucked up way, I guess, A, I'm a total nympho. So just saying. B, I'm making money. So I'm making my own money, which means that thing that I want, my mom doesn't have to try to buy me. You know what I mean? It's that fucked up sort of mentality when you're that young and you're 13 years old. So then, I saw this. Does anyone like Dolly Parton? Does anyone know Dolly Parton's origin story of why she looks the way she looks? She saw a hooker crossing the street when she was 5 years old with her mom. She was like, that's what I want to look like. And so she decided to sexualize herself up and sort of look that way. Well, my story is kind of similar. I was 13 years old. I was a little boy on Jackson Street, and this tranny walked past me who looked like Peg Bundy and Dolly Parton together. Super pretty, amazing body, great tits. And I was like, oh wow, you're so beautiful. And then she spoke, and I was like, oh wow. And so we started hanging out and talking, and I connected with her on a level that I wasn't connecting with the gay guys. Do you know what I mean? There was something about
talking to her that felt more natural. It just felt, you know, it wasn't contrived. Like I felt like I had to be somebody when I was talking to the gay guys, but with her, I felt like I could just sort of be myself. And so, so one night, also, by the way, I was clubbing in Toronto. I was going to this place called Comrades, which after 2 o'clock, they took the booze off the tables, and I could party there till 5 in the morning. First bus back to Hamilton was at 5:30 in the morning, which meant I could catch the bus back home, go to school, and then rinse, wash, and repeat like always. So I'm in this stairwell here at Comrades. Comrades was at Isabella and Yonge, upstairs where that gym is, where they filmed Queer as Folk. So that's where the bar was. And I'm sitting out in the hallway waiting for all the booze to get off the table, and this fucking drag queen walks up to me and she goes, "Honey, are you a boy or a girl?" And I looked at her like, what the fuck? Who said that? And she's like, "Don't look at me like that. I gotta tell you something. If you're a girl, you're beautiful. But if you're a boy, honey, I think you were meant to be a girl." And it was such a fucking Oprah Winfrey aha moment. Because even though I had been talking to my friend Barbara in Hamilton, I never really connected that maybe the reason I was connecting with her was because I was also trans. But then it goes back to the whole, I get goosebumps when I say this because I wish I thought of these things when I was a kid. I had thought about the fact that when I always referred to myself as gay, it just felt wrong. And I don't mean it's wrong to be gay, I just felt like it wasn't the word that best described who I was. I felt like I wasn't describing me, I was like describing someone else. And so when this drag queen, who by the way I'm still friends with to this day, and I always have to preface everything by saying that at the end because we are still friends to this day. And so, you know, it was that sort of moment, and then I talked to Barbara on Jackson Street, and I bought some hormones, a little bit of horse urine, because that's what they are. And that's what Premarin is, for those of you who don't know, it's horse urine. Whatever. You know, it kind of freaks me out though, because there's a brand name and there's a no-name kind. But it's still horse pee. Like, are these like no-name horses, like the President's Choice horses? Like, are they the, you know, the ones that get held back in class or something? I don't know. But of course, I don't get I get the generic stuff. You know. But so yeah, so I talked to her about hormones, and she sold me hormones, a whole bottle of them, and I had had a family doctor who I'd had since I was a kid, and he was like from I think 2 years old. He was like, I hadn't known him that long. And now I'm like 14, right? So she gives me these hormones. I start taking hormones behind my mom's back. Hello, through the window there. I start taking hormones behind my mom's back, and she doesn't know that I'm doing them, obviously, because I just said I've taken them behind her back. Genius. Thank you. If anything, at least you'll know you walked away laughing from the class, right? I find that if we laugh together and we joke, I find you absorb more. If I'm really serious and I'm like this, like you're gonna get, you know, you're gonna focus on other stuff. You're gonna get bored. So try to keep your attention on me. Okay, so yeah, so I was doing the hormones behind my mom's back for the 4th fucking time. I just said that. And I'm pretty. That's all that fucking matters. Okay. No, I'm kidding, it isn't, but I like to say that because it's funny. I was just gonna say it again. I think maybe next time I'll come the day before and sleep better, you know? So, I was starting to develop a core, you know, just like I was 13, 14 years old, so I never hit male puberty. I instantly went to female puberty, and so I grew a core really quickly, which hurt like a fucking bitch. Every lady, I'm so very sorry that we've ever had to go through that because it was so painful for me. And what happened was, I ran out of pills, and Barb didn't want to sell them to me anymore. So I went to my family doctor, and I said, because I'm a lying, manipulative kid, because that's what we do, right, when we're kids, get what we want. I said to my doctor, I said, so, you know, here's the thing, like I started hormones, 1.25 milligrams of Premarin, and this doctor in Toronto was the one that prescribed them to me, and unfortunately he's retiring, and I tried to call and I can't get his number, and I really need them. Kid you not, my doctor was like, okay. Oh yeah, the story gets so much better than that. My doctor was a champion. So I started the hormones officially, and I was paying for them using the money I made on the street corner. So my mom had no idea that I was even on hormones. And then, does anyone know Hamilton? Okay. So you know the Tim Hortons at Wellington and Maine? It's Wellington and Maine, right? Am I right?
I think so.
It's not, or is it Victoria and Maine? Either way, it's the one that goes up the fucking mountain. Anyway, so I'm crossing the street there. Who's fucking crossing the street from the other fucking side but my mother? I'm dressed as a woman. The look on her face was like literally every comedy movie you've ever seen where someone does like a spit take and is like, what the fuck? She starts screaming at me, get your fucking ass home, get the fuck out of those clothes. And I kind of just kept walking like I didn't know her. My mom, something that happened in my family that was always really sort of like hard for me to deal with was my mom had a lot of gay friends, and I mean a lot of gay friends. Yet my coming out was really difficult on her. So it was just, in hindsight, it's one of those things that it's like when someone says, if you have kids and they're gay, will you be okay? And I always say, I don't know. I know what I've had to go through in my life, and if I had a child and they had to go through that, motherfucker, I would be at that school with a shotgun. I really would. I would be that fucking parent. I would be livid to the idea that a kid would have to go through that. And I went through a lot as a kid. I'm 6'1", I'm not exactly 5'8" as a woman, you know what I mean? I stand out. And I may to some look like a biological woman, and I may to some look like a tranny. But either way, it's still shit you have to deal with. And so I think my mom, I genuinely think this, I think that at the time when everything happened, when I came out, I think that she was worried for me. And at 13 years old, I didn't see that. What I saw was my mom hating me. And like I said, I didn't understand it because she had gay friends. So, when I was like 14 years old, I started doing drugs. Because that's what you do when you're a hooker. Gotta live up to all the stereotypes, you know. You work on a street corner, you do drugs and you drink. It's just the way it is. And so I decided to check all the boxes. Because I didn't have one, so I thought if I checked those boxes, it'd be okay. So, I started doing drugs, and my doing drugs was escapism. I've always been a little smarter than the average bear. I knew why I was doing drugs. It wasn't one of those things where I sat back and I'm like, why do I need these? No, I knew it was because I was self-medicating. I was self-medicating, and the worst part of it was that I was also on hormones at the time. So drugs, hormones, alcohol, not exactly a great combination for someone to be living a healthy mental life. Let's see. I was sort of like, so when when I came out at school, I went the first semester dressed as a boy from September to January, and like a fucking genius, went back to the same fucking school semester 2 as my authentic self, which was not easy. Yeah, people were kind of not cool about it, but at the time, I was kind of dancing on Electric Circus, which is where I just aged myself. I was dancing on Electric Circus, so I was on TV. So it kind of like, you know, it's kind of like the Laverne Cox syndrome. People see that you're doing so well, they learn to accept you on a different level, even if they don't in their own private homes. Publicly, they'll be like a little nicer to you because they see you're doing something. So people would see me on Electric Circus, and they would generally be nice to me. And I was really smart in the fact that I was friends with all of the popular people. Right? That's who you want to be friends with. You want to be friends with the popular people because they're the ones that are going to protect you when someone's an asshole. I can remember my first sort of like experience with a teacher who was just overly accepting and was like the greatest teacher on the planet. I was sitting in class one day and someone kept calling me a fag. And I was dressed as myself. And my teacher was like, Samantha, can you stay behind after class? I just want to talk to you. And my teacher said to me, goes, why was that guy calling you a fag? And I was like, oh, it's because I'm trans. And he was like, oh, well, that still doesn't make any sense. But he got really, really angry. And he was like, I need you to come with me. We went downstairs into the vice principal's office, and he started screaming at the vice principal about the fact that he should have been told that I was trans, because then he would have been able to protect me better in class. And that was my first sort of like really good experience of a positive role model being like, I've got your back, I'm here for you. And he was so hot. Not just because he was my savior, because we always think the ones that save us are hot, but no, he was like salt and pepper hair, like a great body. I still remember him. Oh my goodness. And as an adult, he became a neighbor who lived behind my building, and I was like walking my dogs, and every time I was like, hair and makeup was dipped. I made sure I looked good for him. So I went through high school like this. I got a boyfriend, and just like every other serial killer, he has 3 names. Robert James Phelps, right? Graspy knoll, I'm just saying. We were together for 2 years. He was the contributing factor to my mom sort of understanding about my being trans, because he was the straightest guy you ever saw in your life, like so like. And my mom, when he talked to my mom, he was able to sort of like get her to understand that I wasn't a boy and I wasn't gay, that I was a woman, and he was straight. And then 2 years into our relationship, after he moved in with us, I was not waiting for him to come home like a stalker. I happened to be outside on the back stairwell, because we had a really nice backyard. There was like roses and everything. And I happened to be outside. It was like 10 something at night. Like it was like a really beautiful like summer night, like that cool air. And I'm outside and I see this car pull up. Behind the house. Who gets out? A boyfriend. Okay. Comes upstairs, the zipper's undone. So first of all, I was like, oh, who dropped you off? And he said one of the girls that I knew from his work. And I was like, oh, I didn't know she drove that kind of car. Because she fucking doesn't. And so he had been cheating on me with a biological woman. And as a trans woman at the time, it was really devastating for me. And so after 6 years of transitioning to being my authentic self, I said that if I couldn't get someone to love me like this, then maybe I should just be gay and be in the shadows and, live that life. So I stopped hormones, started skateboarding, and started being like really butchy. I mean, as butchy as I can be. Shut up, stop judging me. And I started skateboarding, but the problem was the drug addiction came back, and it came back even harder. And for years, I was sort of like floating from couch to couch and high as a motherfucker every single day. I'm talking like, and I wish this was an exaggeration, and I do not ever talk about these things to sound fucking cool, but I'm talking in a weekend I would do like 17 hits of E on Friday, 13 hits of E on Saturday. Like I was so completely out of it. I ended up getting mouth sores. That's how fucking high I was all the time. Then I started sticking it up my butt because the sores on my tongue would go away. Just, But I was doing drugs a lot. And I remember one of my best friends who was my first boyfriend ever. And I don't talk about him because it lasted like a month. But he was my first gay boyfriend ever. And we were sitting outside on my friend's stoop. I was at my friend Neil's place, and he said to me, what's going on? What are you doing? And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, you don't look happy. Like, what are you doing? And I was like, well, it's because I'm not. And he was like, well, whatever you're doing, this is going to kill you. And I realized in that moment that I was no longer trying to cope with being a gay man who was actually transsexual. I was genuinely just trying to kill myself. I was doing everything I could every weekend to just try to fucking kill myself. I overdosed on coke to the point that I had to have my stomach pumped. I was found passed out in alleyways by my friends because I was so busy trying to not be. I just wanted to be numb inside. And he said, well, when were you happy? And I said, when I was me. And it was great because he knew that when I said when I was me, I was talking about being Samantha. And he looked at me like dead in the eye and he was like, well, then you really need to be you because this is just gonna kill you. And I said to him, I said, but now I've got a hairy chest. I haven't been on hormones in years. I've grown facial hair. Like, now I have to go through all of that again, but now I have to go through it as though I was a trans person who started later in life and deal with all that shit that they deal with, like a beard under their makeup during the day and stuff like that. And the next day, I went to my doctor and I said, I need hormones. To me, he was like, didn't you go off of them? Yeah, but I feel like this is what I need to do, and you know, I've had some time to think. And he was like, well, I don't think I can, and I said, listen to me. I said, I can get them from you, or I can buy them on the street. You choose. I'd rather have a doctor helping me with this than buy them on the street and do this alone. And he made me a deal, which was a very fair deal. He said, okay, he said, I will prescribe you 2 months, but you need to make an appointment and go see a specialist. And it was Dr. Booth. I almost forgot his name. I can't believe that. It was Dr. John Booth in Hamilton, Ontario. And my doctor referred me, and I went over, and his team of people around him were just so amazing. There was no fuck up on the gender. There was no like sir, no mister. It was all miss and she and her. And it was literally one of my first experiences with a doctor, other than my family doctor, because he got it pretty quickly, that they were using the right pronouns. Something about being, so in Hamilton, Ontario, I was kind of really well known. And so when I went about, people sort of generally knew who I was. They didn't know who I was, they knew of me back in the day. And I was very openly trans because I was proud of myself, I guess. And so if I ever had to go to the hospital or I ever had to deal with stuff, my being trans, doctors would like come in and look in the room like I was some sort of fucking freak show, like the circus had arrived. Doctors and nurses would all walk past and do that to me. And so to go in and see Dr. Booth and have him be so amazing was just like, it was like a breath of fresh air, you know, when you go to see a doctor and you're just like, oh, thank you, you see me. And so I'm back on hormones at 25, 26, still doing drugs, but not trying to kill myself. And then, let's see, I have a sister and I have 2 nieces. I know, right? I'm so sorry. Anyone's got any vodka? I'm not going to be upset with you. I'm kidding, vodka and red so I have a sister and I have 2 nieces. If you take these flyers here, you're going to see some stuff on my Instagram and my Twitter. My nieces are literally the coolest fucking kids on the planet. They're both straight A honor roll students. To be that from where we were as kids, you've never met a more proud aunt. You know what I mean? Like, I'm so proud of them. And when they were young, so Christmas, how many people here is Christmas like a really big deal in your family? Like wherever you are, like Christmas is you're there, right? Okay, so Christmas was our like thing. My sister in 20 years had never spent Christmas Day with anyone other than my mom and me and her husband. Christmas Eve was his family, Christmas Day was our family. So when I decided to go back to being me and transition again, I said to my sister, I said, I'm coming this Christmas as me. She was like, no, you can't do that. I was like, you need to tell the kids because I'm coming. So I said, would you rather I not come? And she was like, no, I want you to come, but you can't be dressed like that. Like, and I was like, okay, well, it's one or the other. Make a choice. And I knew Christmas Day, I knew she would say yes, because that's, you know, that's the day that we can't not be together. So, like if it was like a birthday, she'd be like, okay, bye girl, bye Felicia, see you later. But Christmas Day, I knew that she would give in to my demands. And so, so she takes my nieces aside. She goes, oh, my sister married an Italian. She goes, so you know Zio, my birthday? Well, so he's kind of like Michael Jackson. You know how Michael Jackson likes to wear all that makeup and the nice hair? Well, that's your Zio. And now Zio's gonna be Zia Samantha. Okay, I have to say this. I didn't know that that's how she explained it to my nieces until later. But I tell my niece this all the time, and it is one of my most cherished memories. So my youngest niece, about a month later, she comes running up to me outside, and she's like, I know your real name. And she took off running back into the house. And it was like the cutest thing. But thinking back, you go, what do you mean my real name, right? But she didn't know any better. And about, I think 2 years ago, I tried to interview my nieces on what it was like to have a trans aunt. And they were like, why are you asking us this? We don't know what it's like to have a trans aunt. Like, it's never been, you know, and I looked at my sister and I was like, see, this is why we told them so young. Because now that they're 19 years old, and I fucking hate this word, it's normal to them. They've never seen me as anything else. Now that's not to say I didn't walk my sister down the aisle in a tuxedo, because I did, and I look good in it, just saying. And my sister has that video, and she shows it to my nieces all the time. I have no issue talking about having been who I was. I'm not ashamed of the fact that I transitioned and then transitioned again and then transitioned again. I mean, the government fucking saw me coming because that was 3 name changes at $165. You do the fucking math. I'm just saying. Right? Just saying. My mother actually said that to me when I had to get her to sign my name change thing. She was like, oh, they fucking saw you coming, didn't they? Mm-hmm. My mom had a rock star sort of sense of humor, just like me, sort of like no bullshit, and was just like, she'd call you on your stupidity, like changing your name 3 times at $165 a pop. Later on in my my life, let me sort of backtrack a little bit. When everything happened with my being transitioning and my boyfriend, the serial killer, call it spade a fucking spade, it's a spade, it's a serial killer. So when things happen with that, can you imagine being a straight heterosexual man and having to call your girlfriend's house and ask for her by her birth name, which is not, my mother did not do me any fucking favors. I was named after my father, which he did not have a gender neutral name at all. Right, at all. And so he would have to call the house, and I remember, okay, how many of you remember phones that you hang up like this? Mm-hmm. Not like this. He would call and ask for Samantha, and you'd hear my mom up on the top fucking floor of the house, nobody lives here by that fucking name, click, and you could hear the phone downstairs hitting the receiver. Like, that's how, you know, that's how fucked up that was. So my mom and I had like a pretty stressed sort of relationship, and the only reason why I wanted to get into that and digress back was because I remember a night that I was super, super high, and my mom and I got into a fight. My mom was very physically abusive, but in her defense, her mother was also very physically abusive to her and her mother's mother. And it was a cycle that unfortunately with my mom having limited education, didn't know how to break. And so she was also physical when she got angry with me and my sister. And so this night in particular, I was high on acid. It's not really someone you want to hit because there's really there's nothing there. And I remember sort of grabbing my mom and being like, if you hit me again, I will stab you to death in your sleep. you are fucking missing out, lady, because I'm a good kid. And that was sort of like, that was it. And I know that that's a harsh thing to say, but I feel like it was a light bulb moment for her, because after that she sort of started being just a little more understanding, not because she thought I was going to kill her in her sleep, because obviously I wasn't. It was not a real threat that I'm going to admit to on camera. But you know what I mean? It was just, I was a kid, and I was at that point of like, fuck you, like stop hating me. Like why do you hate me so much because of who I am? And the next week we went to see The Bodyguard. Yes, I saw The Bodyguard in the theater. Shut the fuck up, I told you I was 40. God. And so yeah, so we still always had like a sort of stressed relationship. It was never like, I don't know, it was always super stressed. I was always really angry at my mom as a kid. I was angry that we were poor. I was angry that she would take me out of school. And the thing for me is that, and I'm not tooting my own horn, I know that I was a smart kid. But when you take 3 days out of the week out of school because your mom needs to bring you to a food bank to fucking parade you around, you don't really get your schooling done, and so you can't focus on that, and it's really hard to catch up when it's happening every month. And so I was really angry at my mom a lot, so we had a very sort of like distanced and stressed relationship. And so I moved to, I was engaged. Aww, he was a fucking serial killer too. I was engaged to Alex. You met Alex.
Didn't meet him,
But that's right, because he did come to one of my classes. Listen, the guy was a decent guy, but it just was not our time. And when we decided to break up, he had a gay brother, and unfortunately his gay brother was the epitome of the F word that you would call a gay person in the dictionary sense, not in like the mean way, but like that really rude, really disgusting, really sort of backstabby, didn't understand anyone and wasn't willing to try. That's, you know what I mean? And so he was always in my fiance's ear, you know that that's a man, right? Like, that's a man. And so that caused a lot of stress on our relationship, because every time he hung out with his brother, he would come home and you could just feel the sort of energy not be what it was when he left in the morning. And we had a really sort of like loving relationship. And so when his energy changed, you know, when you're with someone for so long and you feel it change. Like, and they can be like, no, nothing's wrong. And you're like, dude, like, this is like chemistry 101. I can sense it. Like, I'm not Miss Cleo or anything, but I fucking can figure this shit out. And so, so after like 2 years of being engaged, I kept the ring. He bought it for me. What's he gonna do? Give it to someone else? Listen, here's the rule, ladies, if you don't already know this. If it's an heirloom and it's given to you because it was someone's mother, you give that shit back. If it was bought for you, you fight for that shit and you keep it. We were sitting in the living room one day, and we had worked side by side in his restaurant was beside the ball barn I worked at. And I had gone over for dinner a couple times, and I had sort of seen him flirting with one of the waitresses who was like my doppelganger, but biological. And so I sort of like, you know, I started getting really sort of confused, and then one day he cut half his fucking finger off, and he's at the hospital. And I get a call from a woman. Hi, I'm here at the hospital with Alex. Okay. Why isn't he calling me? Why are you calling me? Well, I'm the manager. I had to take him in. But again, why are you calling me? Why he's not calling me? He's in the emergency room waiting. They ain't fucking seeing him anytime soon. Why can't he be at the payphone calling me? And I think that my issues with the whole flirting thing from, you know what I mean? And also with the serial killer from when I was 16, I was not having it. I'm one of those, I'm single for a fucking reason, because A, I'm batshit crazy. And I know I'm batshit crazy. I'm okay with that. But at least I know that my heart is protected. I own it, not somebody else anymore. But, I digress. With this whole thing going on, everything just sort of like piled up, and I was like, no. So we got home that night, And I was like, why weren't you the one that called me? Oh, I didn't have my phone with me. I was like, but you were at St. Joseph's Hospital, there's payphones everywhere. Why weren't you the one that called me? I don't know, she said she would call. This was our problem in our entire relationship, was that he was very sort of docile and let everyone, you know what I mean? And so when she said, oh, I'll call, he just let it go. Instead of thinking about my feelings as to some woman that I didn't know calling my house, telling me my husband, or my fiance. My fiance was in the hospital, and so it had been a long time coming, but that was like my final straw, and my heart just wasn't in the relationship anymore. And a couple of days later, I said to him, I think that we need to reevaluate this. And he started crying, and he was like, no, I love you. And I was like, and I love you too. That's what makes this really hard for me. I've never met someone like you, and I love you so much, but I fear that if we continue to date, and we're still together in 6 months, I'm gonna loathe everything about you. And I don't want that. I said, so you need to make a choice, right here, right now. Do you wanna be friends? Or do you want me to hate you in 6 months? And want nothing to do with you for the rest of my life? And he said, I wanna be friends with you. And we continued a really great, close friendship for years after that. So you know, sometimes you make the right decision and you know it's the right decision, and it turns out years later you realize, you go, that was definitely the right decision that we made, because our relationship got even better as friends. Because I wasn't expecting so much of him. I expect a lot of people. If I invite you into my inner circle, I expect a lot from you. And it's not because I'm demanding, it's just that it's my inner circle, and you should be someone that I can trust and admire and talk to and look up to. Even though you may be younger than me, I should still be able to look up to you. I should still be able to see goodness in you. And I demand a lot. And so as a friend, it was easier for me to not demand as much from him, because I had been his fiance, and I had, you know, when you have a guy friend and you have a fiance, you kind of let your guy friend get away with murder. You kind of tell your fiance, clean the fucking dishes. You know? That's just the way it worked. And so we parted ways in 2011. We had had an episode which turned physical. Yes, we were still friends after this, because looking back, the altercation, A, could have been avoided, and B, was instigated by me. So, just saying. And that's not to say that physical violence is ever the answer to anything, because it is not. But I was able as an adult to sort of be, okay, I get how this happened. We still have a friendship that we can work on, and it stayed that way. So I had to leave our apartment that we shared together, because we were not engaged anymore, and we weren't having sex anymore, but I was still living with him. He was a 2-bedroom in my defense, and I had my own room. It's not like I was sleeping in bed with him. God, I had more class than that. So I moved to Toronto, and well, what happened was I had come here and I had seen my friend Marianne, who should be showing up here in about 15 minutes, by the way, because we're going for dinner after this. Because we don't have ginger in Quebec. Can you believe that? I don't know how many of y'all like fucking ginger, but we don't have that in Quebec. Or Montreal at all. And I am like craving the crispy chicken rolls so bad, you have no idea. I'm gonna buy like a box of 10 and take them home with me and eat them for the next 3 days. I'm kidding, I'm just gonna eat them all tonight. My friend Marianne happened to be here in Toronto, and she was living at Lower Simcoe and Bremner, you know where the ACC is and the Rogers Center, like right in between there. And I had said, you know, look, I need a place, I need to move, it's really important. I had been staying on my friend's floor for a couple weeks, and he was like, oh, I'm going for dinner with Marianne. I was like, oh. And so when we met up, we were talking, and she was like, give me a couple days to talk to my boyfriend, because they had actually been managing a couple different properties in this condo building. And a day or two later, she called me up and she was like, okay, so Gary wants to meet with you. Gary was her boyfriend at the time. And I was like, okay, why? She said, because we might be able to help you with an apartment. And I was like, really? So I met for dinner with them, and that night Gary said to me, so we have a penthouse condo, in this location. It's yours if you want it. I've talked to the landlord. They're okay with you not paying rent for a month or two. However, you'll need to pay it back. This is not like a free ride. I'm only doing this because Marianne is my girlfriend and I know that we've known each other for 20 years and I know what it's like. My mom went through these kinds of things when I was a kid and I'm trying to pay it forward. And so I went from being homeless to having a penthouse condo in downtown Toronto. Right? I mean, hello, just saying. Which was $1,600 a month. Do you know how much dick sucking that is? I'm just saying. It ain't one or two. So, I moved here in 2011. I was escorting. I still escort, just in case anyone is wondering. I still escort. Right now, I actually create and produce and edit my own porn, so which has offered me the opportunity to not have to escort as much, but bills still need to get paid, right? And so I have, like I said earlier, I'm a nympho. You gotta find a job that works for you, you know, and sex fucking works for me. I even with all the hormones that I'm on, somehow I still wake up horny and still go to bed horny, which even my doctor has said, listen, that ain't fucking normal. Like that's just, like I was on sertraline, antidepressant. The first thing on the website says, you're not gonna be able to get a hard on or come. Listen, everything about myself down there was like, no, watch me. So yeah, I've always had that. And so, I do porn, I escort, I do phone sex, I do anything that pays my fucking bills. And when I lived here, I worked as a beauty boutique expert at Shoppers, and I loved my day job. And then I worked at Rexall, and I loved my day job. But a problem for me is, I grew up in a generation where customer service and how you treat people is super fucking important. And I have yet to have worked for a company that has the same moral values as I do when it comes to how they treat people. Whether it was me or whether it was the customer. I just have never, does that make any sense? And so working for myself, well, I mean, who I gotta be mad at when I'm fucking rude to someone? Me. Doesn't happen very often, but occasionally I am a little bit of a bitch on the phone. I mean, you'd never know, right? I seem like such a sweet person. So, I am proud to say that I have stopped doing drugs, and I haven't done drugs in, I want to say at least 3 years, 3 or 4, maybe even longer. It's gotten to a point where, like, you know, when you haven't done it in so long that you just, I don't think of it as a quantitative sort of like, I haven't done it in this long, it's just something that I haven't done. And I haven't done it in a really long time because obviously I'm at a place where I'm happy, and so I haven't had to use those coping mechanisms that I used for so long growing up. I was sober. Notice I said was. I was sober for, I think, I don't know, you may, don't quote me. You'll see it on my YouTube channel if you look it up. But I'm pretty sure it was over 107 days, so that's what, 4 months, almost 4 months. I was sober, actually it must have been longer than that, because I was sober until I moved to Laval, which was January 2017 last year. And I was sober from summer on. I had gotten thrush. You wanna know what thrush is? It's a fucking yeast infection in your mouth. Way to go, God, I can't have a vagina and get a yeast infection where everybody else gets it, I gotta get it in my fucking mouth. So it's, yeah, it's like you feel like you have a coat on your tongue. I love that look on your face, it's priceless. She's just like, no. So you feel like you have a coat, like, and not like a good coat. This isn't like a Marc Jacobs coat, this is like an Old Navy coat from like 8 seasons ago that's been worn by someone else. Like it's that bad a coat. And it's all white and gross, and so I got really sick, and with my asthma and everything else going on, it was like a moment where I was like, okay, it might be time to be sober for a little while. And I started working out, and Lisa, by the way, was completely right. I became a dry drunk. Do you know what that is? It's where you circumvent one thing for the other. And so I went from drinking every day to working out every day. And she warned me, you know, listen, you know what you're doing here, but if you stop working out, there is a really big chance that you may relapse to drinking again. And so I made it 2 months when I lived in Laval, sober. And then one day, here's the thing about Quebec, by the way, you can buy wine at the grocery store. How the fuck you want me to be sober when I can get wine with my bread? You know, come on. So I decided, this is so weird, I decided that I would buy this box of wine only because the price of it was my mom's birthday. It was $9.19, and I was like, oh, hi Mom. So I justified it. Let me go back to something that I didn't talk about. My mom died in 2014. There's no ahs or no I'm sorry needed. And I don't mean that in a bad way, I mean it in the sense that when I had went to visit my mom, I had sort of knew something was up. I messaged my sister and said, listen, something's wrong. Something is definitely wrong here. And about a month later, my sister called me and said, Mommy's in the hospital. And I was like, what are you talking about? So we get to the hospital, and so I just found out the word yesterday because of my chest infection and because of my asthma and this thing that's looming in my chest that doesn't seem to want to come out, like phlegm or whatever. I was a little worried. My mom died from esophageal cancer. So here, from excessive smoking can cause it, and excessive drinking can cause it. I was drinking a bottle of vodka a day. And I'm not talking about Mickey's. Oh girl, don't look at me like that. Every day's Friday for me, I work for myself, okay? But I was drinking a lot, and so I have to go in for an endoscopy, is that it? What is it? And, yeah, where they stick the, I mean, it's not like I haven't had other things down my throat before, so this should be at least brief, right? It's kind of like when they ask you to bend over and they're like, this is gonna hurt, you're like, when's it gonna start hurting? Just kidding. I'm kidding, I've never said that in a class before, but it's really funny that you laughed. So I have to go in for that. It's kind of scary for me right now. It's making me think of my mom a lot. But my mom, when my mom was sick, so we were told that my mom had about 30 days. And I was living in Toronto, this is in Hamilton. And so I literally for 30 days did not sleep more than an hour a day because I would get up first thing in the morning, I would go to see my mom and spend the day with my mom, and then I would get home and see clients and do webcam shows and make porn when I got home. Get enough time to shower and sleep for an hour to get back up and do everything else because like I said, I edit my own stuff, I produce my own stuff, so I would be one of those, like, it was a workhorse sort of month for me. And it was weird because in that month, I let go of a lot of hate that I had for my mom. Like I just let go of it. I have said this in every class I've ever been here for, and it is this: baggage is something you carry on a plane. If you have an opportunity to let go of it in your life, let it go. And I knew my mom was dying, and this was my opportunity to let go of something. And so I remember my mom was sort of in and out of consciousness because she had cancer and it was bad. She had the cancer, that's like the interweb, you know, I'm so old. She had cancer, and so she was in and out of consciousness a lot. And what I would do is, she was out more than in, by the way. And so my mom's big thing at Christmas time was bingo tickets and crosswords. Every single year, my sister and I got a bingo and a crossword ticket. And we scratched them all together at the dinner table. And so every time I went to Hamilton, I would buy one of these two things, and I would read the numbers out, or I would read the letters out. Because the doctor said to me, look, she's not here, but she's here. She can hear you, so talk to her. She wants you to talk to her. And I remember one day I was doing a little crossword thing, and my mom and my sister, we were all there. And so, because my mom had been in and out of consciousness, we hadn't yet told her what was going on in the hospital. And then we had a word with the doctor, and the doctor said, you have to tell her soon, or we have to tell her. It's our obligation to tell her what's going on. She can't be in the hospital thinking that she's gonna get to go home. And so we were sitting there with my mom, and she had a sort of moment of clarity, and I looked at her and I was like, Mom, what's my name? She was like, Sam. And I said, okay, what's her name? And being the rock star that she was like, Brenda, duh. So my sister's name is Brenda. And I said, Mom, I said, I have something to tell you. I said, Dad, you have cancer. And you're dying. And you don't get to go home from here. That's it. And it was the hardest conversation I've ever had with anyone in my life. My mom had gone from looking like Superwoman to looking like a 6-year-old child. And so my sister, because my sister has kids and she has a job and she works from home, she doesn't have the luxury of seeing her client at 4 in the morning like I do because she's an esthetician. Because apparently no one wants to get their nails done at 4 in the morning. I mean, what's that all about? So she had left, and I was sitting in the corner, and I was scratching a thing, and my mom sort of like looked at me, and she was like, Sam, and I was like, what? And she looked at me, and she said, is it true? And I said, what do you mean it's not true? And remember, so she's in and out of, right, so she can't talk as much as she should be able to talk, and she drew a C with her hand, and I said, cancer. I said, yeah, Mom. My mom's next words to me will forever be emblazoned on my heart. She looked at me and she said, I'm sorry. And I said, sorry for what? She said, I'm sorry I wasn't a better mother. And what did I do? I burst out laughing. I burst out uncontrollably laughing at her. And I was like, Mom, you don't get it. I'm a really good kid. You did a great job. I'm a good kid because you were a good mom. And I feel like that in and of itself was my release of everything. You know, because when parents are healthy, they don't want to hear that they did a good job. If you're a parent, you know that. When your kids are, you're such a good mom, you're like, oh, shut. But when you're not feeling great and your kid walks up and says, you know, you're a good mom, like, you know, you hear it. And being able to say those words to my mom, I say the same thing to everybody, and it's that, you know, hundreds of thousands of people die every day, and they're never given the opportunity to say goodbye. They're never given the opportunity to say I love you one last time. And I, by the grace of God, or whatever you believe in, was given this gift. And so for me, I've never really had a sadness about my mom dying, because I was able to say those things to her. And like I said, she wasn't a great mom, she was kind of an asshole. But in her being an asshole, I turned out to be a really good kid. So can I really still be mad at her for that? No, that's not how it works. Have I forgotten anything? Oh, we have to do the surgeries talk, right?
We have to do the surgeries talk.
Okay.
But you also,
Oh, yeah. See, she remembers
her life.
She remembers more than me. One time I was coming here and I brought like a laptop and I had notes on it, but the problem was I was even more nervous looking at these notes than I normally am, because I couldn't, when I talk to the students, I'm able to sort of like let myself go and let my guard down, but each time I looked at my notes, I felt like my guard went back up. Like I felt like I was distracting myself, and it was hard for me to, so I get very, and the Red Bull doesn't help. As I drink more. That's like that girl, like, I'm never gonna drink again. Where's the vodka? Okay, so, in 1999, I was arrested for drug trafficking. I made license plates, probably your parents, just saying. It's no, really, seriously, sometimes I'll be like, and I make Quebec license plates too, right? I live in Quebec now. Sometimes the license plate will go by and be like, yeah, so in 1999, I was arrested for drug trafficking, and I went to jail, and when I got out of jail, I was in boy mode because I went to jail in boy mode. I didn't want to go as my authentic self because it was scary for me. I was going to jail for 6 months. I wasn't just going for 30 days. And that same year, my niece Olivia was born. I was coming out of an after-hours club called Chester's in Hamilton. Do you know where it is? Gore Park. I was coming out of there and I was really fucking high on coke, and 4 guys jumped me. One guy grabbed one arm, one guy grabbed the other, and all 4 of them kicked me in the face. They shattered my jaw here and here, knocked a tooth out. Which if I had known to put it in milk, they could have put it back. But I didn't know that, I was stuck in my pocket. Where was I gonna get milk at 7 in the morning in fucking downtown Hamilton? So I was attacked and sort of left for dead. There was literally so much blood outside that it stained the sidewalk for a week. Even in rain, it was still there. It was not going anywhere. When I went to the hospital, I had, because again, I'm a fucking genius. After this happened, I of course went home to go to bed. My friend Frankie came over, and he was like, "You need to go to the hospital." And I was like, "No, I'm good, don't worry about it, it's fine, my jaw's fucking hanging." But I was high, so like, you know what I mean? Like when you're high, you don't feel those things. I was like, I'm fine, I'll just go back. And so my phone at the time was one of those like Viacom phones that had all like directory shit in it. And he knew my sister's name and he called up my sister. And he was like, "There's something wrong with Sam. You need to know what happened." And he came over and he was like, "Someone's on the phone for you." And I was like, "Oh, the fuck, be on the phone for me?" I'd call him. My sister. "Promise me on Olivia's life, you're going to the hospital right now." Now, I don't know, listen, maybe it's because I grew up like fucking Irish Catholic, Roman Catholic, all that other shit, but when you say swear on some kid's life, there is no way you are not doing that. The moment my sister said swear on Olivia's life that you are going to the hospital right now, and I said, "Okay, I swear," I literally was up in 5 minutes and off to the hospital. Because you have that Catholic guilt of like, what if something happens to this kid? It's totally my fault that I go to the hospital. So, I went to the hospital and I was in the waiting room. By the way, even with broken jaw, they weren't ready to see me yet. Apparently I was not a priority. Whatever. So, my sister was coming in, and when she saw my face, she dropped my niece. My niece is in one of these things. And let's not get all too like, she's 5'4". The kid didn't have far to drop. It was like from here. And my dropped and just started screaming, like, "Why aren't you in a room? Like, what's wrong?" And I was like, all right. So I did what any other self-respecting person in a hospital would do. I fake fainted. And let me tell you, I gave in to that faint. My fucking head hit the floor so hard. I heard ringing for like at least 30 minutes. But I fucking gave, I was like, oh. I was in a room in seconds. They were like, "Oh, blah, blah, blah." And I was like up in a room, and here's the scary part. So I was literally, once I got into the room, I was out cold. I woke up with a notepad and a pen in front of me with my fucking jaw. And of course, what do you do with your jaw wired shut? You still want to talk. So that's what I sounded like. And I remember I looked like, does anyone here watch the X-Files? No? Any sort of shows like that? So I looked like an extra from the X-Files. Every blood vessel in both of my eyes was busted. My lips were kind of misshapen. I had the tooth here, jaw wired shut. And I had bruising. And my little niece, Olivia, she couldn't, that's Mary. So every time I went to hold my niece, she's got big curly hair. Can't miss it. Every time I went to hold my niece cried. Every single time my niece looked at my face, she started bawling uncontrollably. So for the first couple minutes of my niece's life, I couldn't even hold her. And it's funny because now we're super close. So, just saying. I'm so sorry. Everybody say hi, Marianne.
Turn your phone on.
So yeah, so for the first couple minutes of my niece's life, I couldn't hold her because my face was all sort of mashed up and misshapen. And it was my niece's first Christmas. We all know when I want something, I get it, right? We figured that out by now. So the doctor says to me, your jaw has to be wired shut for 6 months. And I was like, no. Christmas isn't 4. It's my niece's first Christmas. I'm not eating Christmas dinner with my niece. Not gonna happen. So they were like, 6 months. And I was like, you can take it out or I can. Kind of goes back to the doctor thing, right? I have no issue ever being that person. And I can be a bit pushy, but I mean, it's just me. And so I went back up. I went in to get I think it was about 3.5, 4 months. And I went in to get it taken out. And so they took my jaw stuff out. And I'm like, in the inside of my mouth, I'm like, I said, there's something still in there. The nurse is like, no, everything is taken out. I said, I'm telling you, there's something still in my mouth. So she goes in, she pulls out like a piece of metal this big that was in the back of my, and I was like, what? How could I have made that shit up? What do you think my teeth made it when you took all the fucking stuff out? So that year for Christmas, has anyone ever seen someone who's had the jaw wire shut before? And had their thing taken off, yeah? So you can look your own mouth like this. That big. And it feels like you're opening your mouth like this, but that's as big as it's going, right? Because it has to pop here before it can go back to normal, so you can have a giant fucking mouth like I do now. And so, so I'm eating Christmas dinner. It's the saddest fucking thing ever. I'm like pulling the chicken apart and like slamming it between my teeth, pushing it through. But I was eating Christmas dinner with my niece. That's all I wanted. And so that happened. What else? The surgery stuff? Yeah? Okay. So I've never had plastic surgery. My breasts are thanks to being on hormones for so fucking long. Thank you very much. And a little bit of chicken cutlets from La Senza. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Breasts are like jewelry. You gotta showcase that shit off. So push, like this whole like lift and separate, I don't know where that ever came from. No one wants their tits to be separated, honey. That's not how it works. We want them to be together. They want to be able to say hello to each other all day. That's how it should be. And so I wear little chicken cutlets, but other than that, my breasts are real. The only surgery I have had is in 2016, 2015? Trach surgery? 2016. Either way, it's years ago.